Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Metro Board activities. I'm Matt Letourneau, Chair of the Board's Finance and Capital Committee. Before we begin our meeting today, I'll ask our Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Teresa Vestato, to provide our safety contact.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the event of an alarm activation, we'll exit this conference room via the glass doors and proceed into the lobby where we'll await further instructions from our security team. If we are instructed to exit the building, I'll lead the group to our designated assembly point while the security team coordinates with first responders. There's an AED located at the entry desk, and in the event of an emergency, I'll retrieve the AED and render aid while awaiting emergency services. Lastly, restrooms are located in the vestibule area adjacent to this conference room. Summer in the DMV can be quite warm, and it's important for you to keep as cool as you can when using Metro and waiting for your trip. Here are some tips to stay cool. Protect yourself from the sun. Not all transit stops have shade, so bring an umbrella or a hat. Shade creates a barrier between you and the sun, keeping your body out of direct heat and protecting your skin from the sun. Be sure to wear sunblock to guard against sunburn, and also be sure to check the temperature of any surfaces that are exposed to the sun before sitting or leaning against them. Staying hydrated is important all year round, but it's especially crucial during the summer months. When you're out in the heat, your body's working hard to regulate its temperature, which can lead to dehydration. Don't wait until you're thirsty to drink. Sip small amounts of fluid throughout the day. Arrive at your stop no more than 10 minutes before your bus or train's scheduled arrival time. WMATA offers mobile updates as well as a trip plan feature on our website that can help you time your arrival at your stop or station to reduce your time in the heat. And lastly, choose lightweight fabrics in light colors. Remember that dark colors, like black or red, actually retain more heat than lighter colors when waiting outside. For additional safety information, visit WMATA.com. This concludes our safety contact.
Thank you very much. Since this is our first meeting of the day, I'll ask Ms. Ellison, our Corporate Secretary, to call the roll.
Chair Letourneau.
Present.
Vice Chair Klein.
Present.
Director McAndrew.
Here.
Director Santos.
Here.
Director Smedberg.
Present.
Director Martin Proctor.
Good morning.
Director Drummer.
Present.
Director Hadenlow. Here. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve our agenda. I'd like to move to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. Now to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of our June 13th meeting. Are there any objections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved as presented. We have one item on today's agenda, which is a new item for us. It's our report on Metro's FY24 performance on metrics aligned with goal number 3 of our strategic transformation plan, which is regional opportunity and partnership. So I'm going to turn the floor over, I believe, to Mr. Webster first to start our presentation.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Chair Letourneau, members of the committee, and the board. I'm Tom Webster, Executive Vice President and Chief of Planning and Performance at Metro. I'm joined by 3 colleagues this morning, Catherine Vanderwart, who's our Director of Ridership and Mobility Analysis, Jordan Holt, our Senior Director of Performance and Global Benchmarking, and Erica Cunningham, our Vice President of Community Engagement. We're pleased to be here this morning to present this first annual report on our progress made towards our strategic goal of regional opportunity and partnership. This goal is fundamentally about designing transit service and related and supporting policies to move more people and equitably connect a growing region. With the board and the region's support, we've made investments in our service over the past few years that have resulted in 38 consecutive months of ridership growth and a corresponding increase in transit market share in this region. Our investments in frequency, which have largely been achieved by reallocating existing resources, have really paid off. Customers tell us again and again that frequent service is the most important, and we're seeing it in the data and in the ridership. Ridership is up on most routes, is up the most on routes where we've added more frequency. As a mobility provider, we need to be able to make to take people where they want to go, to jobs, schools, medical appointments, concerts, ball games, groceries, et cetera. Through our design changes and improvements in frequency, we've increased access to jobs by over 20%. We have multiple efforts underway that are going to continue to drive progress. Our bus network redesign with a year one proposal for 2025, and a visionary network that aims to continue to increase those connections. An accelerated joint development program, the continuation of our Metro Lift program, and we are very excited about the incredible opportunity that the DMV Moves initiative is presenting to develop a unified vision for transit in our region. A little bit later, Erica will highlight efforts by our Metro team and her office to increase Metro's community engagement activities. This helps us to ensure that our constrained resources are being used to design and deliver services that meet our regional and community needs. As I mentioned, this is our first annual report on the Regional Opportunity and Partnership Goal. The materials we covered today will discuss our progress towards the two objectives under that goal, the regional network and partner service optimization and community partnership and engagement. There are 10 strategic transformation plan key performance indicators associated with the regional opportunity and partnership goal, and Metro and our partners are making progress on all of these measures and are meeting targets, the interim targets for most of the measures. I want to also highlight that Metro recently published our new research that demonstrates the benefits of transit and its critical importance to the DMV region. The region's transit system delivers return on investment many times greater than the cost of the transit service, and it's really fundamental to the region's success and plans for the future. And importantly, investing in transit benefits everyone, whether they take transit or not. Just wanted to also highlight that the full report and a technical memorandum that explains the methodology and approach are available on Metro's website. And again, the region has set very ambitious goals for the environment, for the economy, for affordability and equity. And all of those fundamentally rely on transit to come to fruition. We're very excited to be participating with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments and in this effort to launch DMV Moves, again, to establish that future unified vision for transit and sustainable funding for the future of transit in our region. I'll turn it over to Catherine to continue the presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to walk through a handful of slides on context on regional travel patterns and ridership here at Metro. But first, as we all know, Metro is part of a regional transit network, including rail, bus, commuter rail, streetcar. We are the largest provider in the region in that array of services. We provide about 75% of the service miles and serve about 85% of the customer trips. The network works together in really important ways. The full network of all of the different bus providers in the region gives access to our customers to over 36,000 more jobs in the morning peak than Metro Bus alone. So we are definitely part of a regional system. But in order to understand our ridership trends in context, we have to look at travel across all modes, including driving, single occupancy vehicles, et cetera. So we have been using data from cell phone providers. It's called location-based services data, if you've run across that before. And we found that while overall travel, according to this data, has fallen about 20% in our region from 2019 to 2023, we're seeing differences in when those declines are happening across the day. The decline in the AM peak has been much stronger than the decline in the midday. The midday has therefore gained relative share of regional travel and is now about 35% of all trips. Another important trend we're seeing is that more trips are starting and ending at home. That share is now up to about 75% of all trips in 2023. We attribute that to fewer trips being made as people go to an office and then make further trips from the office during or after their workday. So our fare and service changes that Jordan will speak about in a few slides definitely reflect and reinforce, complement these trends. So some context on our recent ridership trends. We've been seeing very strong growth over the past several years. Our fiscal year-to-date average monthly ridership has reached 20 million trips across bus and rail combined. That exceeds our target of, or meets our target of 19.9 million trips per month for the fiscal year. We expect June numbers, when they're added in, will continue to meet that target. The growth has been especially strong on rail, with a 28% increase year over year and a 12% increase on bus. So looking at all regional travel and then at our ridership, we can look at our market share. And our market share grew 33% from 2022 to 2023. Our market share does vary from across the region significantly. It's 6.4% overall in 2023. That reaches 18% in some of the densest parts of our region that have the best transit service and where transit is most competitive with other modes. Those areas where transit has the highest market share are also the ones where transit market share has rebounded most strongly, as you'll see in that map on the right in those teal areas. That's where our market share has been growing most quickly. I should note that regional travel has continued to grow overall. We added about 500,000 car trips across the region in 2023 as an average daily car trips. So in order to maintain that 6.4% market share and grow it, Metro will have to continue to grow more quickly than regional travel overall. So we may need to add 100,000 transit trips just in order to keep up our market share. And then another bit of context, cities around the globe hit market share of 20 to even up to 75%. I think we all know North American cities do tend to lag, but even in North America, we do see 26, 27% in cities like Toronto and New York. So just to put that 6 or 7% that we have here in the DC region in context. More context, going back further on our ridership, Metro's ridership actually peaked in the early 2010s. Our highest ridership was 1.3 million average daily bus and rail trips in 2012. And then the declines across bus were, the declines over the next few years in bus mirrored nationwide trends. Many bus systems were struggling in the 20-teens. The declines on rail were more driven by reliability, leading into safe track. In that 2011 rail ridership peak, we were actually running less rail service than we are right now. We're running about 20% more service miles, so we could carry up to about a third more trips on our current rail service plan than we're serving right now. We are proposing, or we believe that the proposed year one 2025 Better Bus Network could attract 13,000 more daily weekday trips than we're serving right now. And that's with the same resources. So we do have room to grow on our current service plan. Those gains, if we were to see them, would increase our market share to something like 7 or 8%. And I'll turn it over to Jordan.
Thanks, Catherine. So as the growth in ridership and market share is that we've talked about over the past few slides is a result of investments that we've made over the last 3 years. And there are kind of 3 big categories of investments. The first at the top are about expanding our network and our hours of service. So that makes sure we're continuing to take people where they want to go, when they want to go. The second category of investments are about investing in all-day frequencies. And as others have mentioned, we just want to reemphasize that we've been able to do this with largely existing resources. So it's just been kind of reallocating current resources. And I'll show you in the next few slides some of the impact that's had on ridership. And then the third broad category of investments have been in our fare policy to make sure it continues to be simple and affordable. And we'll delve into a bit of the details that we've seen through launching, in particular, our Metro Lift. Digging into the benefits of frequency. So looking at bus service, where we define frequency as access to 12-minute or better frequencies, you see in the last 4 years, this went from about a quarter to almost 50% of customers having access to that frequent service. And that's because in September of 2021, we implemented this all-day frequent service network. But what I really want to draw your attention to is that delta between fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. We didn't add anything else to the frequent service network. So that increase from 41% to 45% of trips kind of on our frequent service network is because riders are attracted to frequency. So this is something we hear over and over in our focus groups and our surveys, that frequency is of utmost importance. And we're seeing that here in the data too. So that's just because more trips are being taken on our frequent service network. And really, we view this as kind of a down payment for what we'd like to do with the bus network redesign, which is, again, continuing to focus on this frequency. So we know that's what drives ridership. On the rail side, we have also seen a large increase in access in the percentage of our customer trips with access to frequent service. Here we define that as 6 minutes or better. We're kind of meeting our target of 60% this fiscal year. And kind of when we look ahead, we believe we can get up to about 76% of trips having access to this level of frequency. Going beyond that, though, will require more investments in our signaling system and terminal capacity. So this kind of maxes us out on the frequency that we can have in our existing system. All this frequency really leads to better outcomes for our customers because it connects them to more destinations. When we factor all of this in, just in this past year between FY23 and FY24, we've seen an increase by about 23% of the average number of jobs accessible within 60 minutes of transit. This has been achieved through these investments in frequency, network expansion, and service hours. And kind of looking ahead, we see that implementing even just year one of our Better Bus Network will further expand the amount of jobs available to our customers.
And all of these investments are paying off. And when you combine that with the overall changes to regional travel patterns, we are seeing some really high ridership and great growth in some specific times and places. The frequent all-day service and on the Red Line and transit-oriented development have led to record high ridership at NOMA. We've seen double the weekend ridership there that we were seeing before the pandemic. The frequent service network improvements that Jordan mentioned have paid off on some lines specifically. So we have a couple of suburban lines. The 28A runs between Alexandria and Tysons, the F4 between New Carrollton and Silver Spring. These were routes that previously had frequencies of 20 to 30, coming every 20 to 30 minutes at some times prior to the frequent service network, and they're now coming every 12 minutes or better all day, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. And that investment and consistent availability of the service has really paid off. We've seen 70% ridership growth on those lines. And the consistent, frequent, reliable service on the weekends on rail has really driven growth there. We have seen more weekends, over 1 million rail trips in the first half of 2024 than we saw in all of 2019. That's driven by things like cherry blossoms, Nationals games, most recently the Pride Parade, which led to record high ridership at U Street.
Thanks. So looking at Metro Lift, it just turned 1, so happy birthday to Metro Lift. And we've reached about 68 100 enrollees who have activated their passes. And we think this is about 10% of the eligible population and nearing our target of 8,000 for this year, which was set based on kind of what the eligible population looks like, as well as experience of our peers implementing similar programs. When we look at this population, they've taken about 560,000 trips, 70% of that on Metro Rail, coming out recently to about 13 trips a month. And we estimate this has totaled about $450,000 in savings, dollars in savings for these customers. Looking ahead, what we're doing is we are extending all these passes for 1 year. This is based on research that shows that SNAP beneficiaries tend to stay in the program for about 3.5 years. We're going to use that time savings on our end to continue to market and build on the partnerships that we already have to continue to expand enrollment. We're also applying some of the lessons learned through this program. We had a really streamlined online enrollment process. As we roll out the Senior Smart Trip card, we're gonna leverage those lessons learned and that innovation in that way. One thing I know that was of a concern when we started this program was looking at kind of usage of it outside of our compact area. We estimate that about 1 to 2% of these 6,800 enrollees have home addresses outside of our compact area. However, we do know that they're using the system to access businesses and potentially jobs in our compact zone. Now moving on to our second objective, which is community partnerships and engagement. We don't have annual data yet for our inclusive contracting KPI that's measured on a federal fiscal year basis, but did want to highlight just some of the actions that we're taking to ensure that we have a robust community of small businesses and minority-owned businesses to partner with. Just this year, we've certified or recertified over 300 small businesses. We have a robust calendar of outreach events that leverage the partnerships that we have throughout the region. These are partnerships with a variety of local small business organizations, the DC Mayor's Office, et cetera, and really kind of build those relationships. Also of importance is our engagement with public and private sector developers to build on our Metro Rail properties. We set an ambitious joint development goal of 20 agreements in 10 years. That's about 2 a year. And I'm happy to say we approved 2 in fiscal year 24. And I think anyone that has been to the new Carrollton Metro Station can really see some of the benefits of kind of recent development there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Erica Cunningham.
Good morning. Oh, thank you. Good morning. We, as I shared last time, we have a broad vision for really enhancing how we engage the community and our various stakeholders, and we've made a lot of progress on these efforts, so I will talk about some of the highlights. I hope many of you will join us this Saturday for Metro Fest, which is an opportunity for us to meet with some of our youngest riders as well as their families. We will have fun while also sharing important information about DMV moves, Better Bus, sharing information on Lyft, Senior Smart Trip, Metro Access, and other programs that we have. And that will be taking place at the Franconia Springfield Station this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you can't join us this Saturday, we have another opportunity at the Branch Avenue Station on July 27th, same times and the same fun. We also are reaching out to our community in a new way with our Metro Message, which is a community conversation, a collaboration in between community outreach and the government relations team to reach some of our stakeholders to have an intimate conversation about Metro programs, services, and in this call, we'll absolutely be highlighting our upcoming fare and service changes. We'll also share information about MetroFest, our community calendar, and information on Smart Trip, Lyft, Access, just having those opportunities to touch and hope that they help us amplify some of our key messages. And then we're moving to helping with our employee engagement and opportunities to collaborate and provide greater impact to the community with the establishment of an employee volunteer program. This is a separate and apart from the MIPS program, really looking at opportunities for us to have broad scale impact in the community and possibly create some signature programs for Metro to provide support and service to some of our strategic partners. Thank you.
And that concludes the first annual Regional Opportunity and Partnership Report.
Excellent, thank you. Well, that was a really positive report with some really impressive results. I'll open it up for questions and maybe just ask a very quick one myself, which I don't think you'll have this immediately on hand, but on the LIFT program, I had raised the issue a year ago, how we're going to handle folks who are not in the transit zone. And I'm just curious if we have numbers as to what enrollment, if any, we have for those who are not in the transit zone. And it's fine, you can follow up with the board on that, but.
We see about when we look at home addresses, it's about 1 to 2% of enrollees are outside.
Oh, out of
6,800.
Okay. Okay.
But we know they're from their usage of their card, they're traveling within the transit zone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Other questions, members of the committee? Mr. McAndrew?
Just stand on this. This is, again, new and important. And I think for us, as we think about, our multi-layered transit system in the state of Maryland and throughout the region, this is really important because we admire what Virginia is able to do in terms of supporting fare-free operations. It's a more complex question in the state of Maryland in terms of cost and opportunity. So I'd love to, ask the question here of how we're going to hit 8,000, but then also, I've asked this question to the team before, and I'm not really 100% positive. How is the state of Maryland engaged on this, and what more can we do from our side to make sure that we are advocating and promoting and supporting? Because I think this is ideally 8,000 is the floor and not the ceiling.
Thank you for the question, Board Member McAndrew. I think 8,000 was a projection at the outset of the program, and Jordan mentioned earlier it was based on peers ramp up and some recognition that it takes a little while to get word of mouth out there. So I think some continued effort on those partnerships, adjoining with meetings where we're out in the community already with the team to sign people up actively, and continuing those promotion efforts. There are definitely more opportunities to partner with local government agencies and nonprofit partners. So we're going to continue to pursue that, and with the county governments and MDOT too, as we move forward here. I think there really is not another way other than getting out there and making people aware of the program, signage in our stations and on our buses, and continuing that along with sort of word of mouth of the benefits of the program.
Yeah, just ask. I mean, we have the WSTC, and we can go ahead and kind of rally the troops. I'd love to put a little bit of a game plan together of what has happened, but then also what more can we do, right?
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, Director? Oh, sorry, Director Klein first.
I'd like to ask about our ridership goals. I see that we met our goal, which is awesome. What are we thinking for a goal in terms of next year?
I'm not going to be able to come up with the numbers off the top of my head, but the goal that we have in the FY25 budget is fairly flat from where we are now, and that's partly because it was set prior to some of this recent growth, and partially to be conservative with the upcoming fare increase and the impact that that could have, the we're not really sure how customers will react to a fare increase in ridership numbers relative to how they would have pre-pandemic. There's some signs that things may have changed. So we're expecting a lot of this strong growth to continue, but there are some things we're sort of monitoring in terms of where we put it at in the FY25 budget, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, and in terms of what's under WMATA's control, we are anticipating ridership growth from the bus network redesign, which is great. And we have some active joint development solicitations, which obviously aren't instantly going to yield ridership growth, but are like getting at this bigger picture point about the connection between land use and transportation. But it just seems to me like, you know, we need more people using transit in order to meet our region's climate goals and to address what's happening around here with traffic. And we have to do more than just like wish for that to happen in order to make it happen. So I'd like to hear some more ideating at some point around post-pandemic, where we are, what the barriers to more transit use are, and if we're really doing everything that we can on our end to address every barrier. Like Sarah has that graph she puts up of like that flow of like all the steps of the experience. Like we need to have like a sesh where we just go through each one and like what are our action items in order to loosen the flow.
Okay. Director Klein.
Thank you. Going back to Mr. McAndrews' questions about the LIFT program, I wanted to just follow up on that because I agree that this is a really important effort and it's had some really great results thus far. And I know that the team is out there at every possible event working to sign folks up. So that's very helpful and a great effort. But there's only so many folks that work at WMATA that can go out to events, right? So can you say a little bit more about what it means? I don't know if you guys are the right folks, since you're the performance data people. Maybe not, I don't know if you can answer this, but if you can, what does it mean to partner with the human services agencies in the region? Does that mean they give you a space where a WMATA person has to come out and sign people up, or are they, you know, do we just give them a bunch of stuff and they can do it? How are we leveraging that partnership? What does it mean?
I think we can certainly follow up with some more detail, but it's a combination of both. There are instances where we will go and staff an event or something like that. It's also a relatively straightforward process to sign up. So once someone is very familiar with that, they can assist customers in signing up. So that's part of the partnership and engagement as well, is just a quick tutorial on how to sign someone up for the program online.
I know another example is, for example, in DC, in some of the low-income housing buildings around the city, they've given us some advertising space so that we can continue to advertise this program to residents there.
Great. I mean, I think because that's the way we're going to get, I think the goal for 2027 was 30,000. Am I remembering that right? Or is that something else? I think it was
that
that.
is a goal that I think we should endorse. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds. In any case, whatever, that might have been something else. There were a lot of numbers in this presentation. But in any case, I mean, we're a little bit behind goal now. You said that the goal was derived from experience of peers in setting this up. What do the next 2-3 years look like in peer experiences? Do we start seeing a big upturn, or does it fall
So if
off?
you look at kind of the slope of this line, right, that's kind of the increase in enrollment every month. So you see kind of it really picked up pace in October. That's when we had a big outreach push, and then it's kind of leveled off. So we kind of expect it to continue to increase at this rate. And, you know, I think leveraging the partnerships, leveraging kind of co-promotion with other events, as Erica mentioned, is one way that we could kind of change that slope of the line and increase it.
Good. I think that's a great goal. Can we flip to this slide about transit market share? One question that I had about that slide, what are the actual boundaries that are shown in there? They're clearly not counties.
No, we have developed our own sort of geographic units of analysis for various purposes, based off of census block groups. So they're aggregations and adjustments to census block groups.
Based on what makes sense to analyze for transit purposes.
Transit, right.
Okay.
The census block group around the National Mall is huge. We had to kind of divvy it up, that kind of thing.
That makes sense. And this, so for folks who have been paying really close attention to DMV moves, there was a slide shown there about transit share of trips that are convenient, that could be convenient for transit. This is a different measure, which is all trips in the region, right? So we're not looking at whether there is a bus stop close by. We're just looking at, is a trip taken? Was it on transit? Okay, just want to make sure that was the case. So this is a really interesting map, and some of these colors are easily understandable. I was curious in the places that, like, there's certainly a concentration of place where transit market share has dropped relative to 2019 in the eastern side of the region. Do you have any thoughts on what's driving that? Is that a particular thing?
I will have to look into that further. It's definitely, you're right that it is definitely noticeable, but I'll have to go back and explore that more.
Okay, and I was also really intrigued, this might have been in the appendix, this is my last question, that said that Paris's market share for transit is 75%. And I wondered if, it's always a little bit, you have to be careful when doing international comparisons because sometimes they don't define the region quite the same way we do. And we may have brought in our calculation, more low density areas, for example, that are further out. But do you have, like, that's amazing. Do you have any
go
thoughts
dig
on
through
that?
the report that these market share comparisons came from. I know Paris has done a lot to, in the last several years, to shift away from allowing cars and having cars driving in the middle of the city. And I think that's been a big component of that, shift.
That's very interesting and just shows what we can be striving for. Imagine 75% of trips in our region on transit.
That's
We could get
motorized
there.
trips. That doesn't include biking and walking,
Motorized
which is
trips.
also very high in Paris.
Motorized trips. It's a great goal, just like all the other ones we've been talking about. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Drummer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you all have established a tremendous record of community outreach. Today, Erica, you introduced something new to me that's quite intriguing, and that's the employee engagement program, where you use employees as volunteers in support of the communities we support. Can you give us a quick example of how we're going to use our employees in that way?
So we are establishing that. So we haven't started it yet in large scale. Obviously, we do. Oh, I'm not speaking loud enough today. Sorry. Obviously, we've had employees go out small scale to support events when we're doing signups at a library for Lyft, et cetera. But the vision here is to grow. When we did Fill a Bus, right? That's a Metro-led initiative where our employees helped coordinate, fill the bus with the items that were given away. We're looking at how we can partner with public schools, how we can continue to add value in a meaningful way to the community and Metro employees. So more to come on that, but it is definitely in the pipeline. And we'll be moving as quickly as possible to implement some opportunities for our employees.
Thank you. Very creative approach. Thank you.
Mr. Smedberg.
Thank you. Catherine, could you go back to the census tract slide again? So some of the areas in red, you say there's an area there in Arlington that's red. Is it possible that that area already has a high level of transit? I just want to,
Yep.
Yeah, so a growth of 2 or slightly below 2% could be okay because they're already at a relatively high level. So
Right,
we should take,
If we were to dive into this.
yeah.
more
Okay, I
fully
just
with
want to make sure that,
Total versus change,
Yeah.
we could tell a more
okay,
nuanced story.
just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from members of the board? All right. Seeing none, with no further business to come before the committee, we stand adjourned, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Drummer to begin today's Safety and Operations Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Letourneau. Good morning again, and welcome to the Safety and Operations Committee meeting. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any objections by members of the committee? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Now to approval of the minutes of our June 13th meeting. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. So we have one information item on today's agenda. It's service excellence. It's the service excellence update aligned with goal number 1. And the service excellence update goes for Q3 FY 2024. I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Webster.
I'm just going to jump right in.
Okay, and Ms. Holt.
As you mentioned, this is our Q3 report. So this covers the time period from July 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024. And we're talking about progress towards the KPIs that are related to the service excellence goal and the 3 objectives under it. And those 3 objectives are safety and security, reliability, and convenience. We have chosen those objectives because we know from research that they drive customer satisfaction, which is our goal level metric here. And we also know that satisfied customers ride more. So we can think of these are also 3 key objectives related to ridership. In our last presentation, we talked about the importance of designing a good system to drive ridership, but also what matters is that we deliver that service reliably and safely. So with that, also want to take another victory lap on ridership, that it's grown 20% year over year. A few other highlights that we'll talk about is that our serious crime rate is down. This is part 1 crime, and it's down 30% when we compare to Q3 of fiscal year 23. Provide a bit more details of this, but we know particularly one driver of the perception of crime is fare evasion, and we've seen a steep decrease in recent months from a high of 13% in July to 4% on Metro Rail in more recently. Service reliability remains an area of focus. We have seen some recent improvements on rail and bus on-time performance that we'll talk about. There are quite a few KPIs aligned with this goal. We're not going to talk about all of them today. We're going to focus on a few. We're going to focus on customer satisfaction, as well as a few personal security measures and reliability measures. So we know from recent survey results that this is what's driving primarily customer satisfaction. The report has full details on all of these measures. When we look at progress, we see that we're either meeting target or kind of making improvement towards target on about 2/3 of these KPIs. So on satisfaction, we see consistent levels of satisfaction across all 3 modes. So we're consistently at about 75% of customers across rail, across bus, across access say they're satisfied with their last trip. When you look at Metro Bus and Metro Access, this has been kind of the same story for the last 21 months. That's what's shown on the graph. And so we haven't seen any significant change there. When you look at Metro Rail, the Q3 results are a decrease from our high in Q2. The Q3 results are actually very consistent. Washington Post and the Schar School conducted a poll during this same time period and also came out with 77% customer satisfaction, which is amazing. So we know it's consistent there. And we really did some extra research to delve into what's behind this decrease or this change from 88% to 77%. And we've identified kind of a main factor being, we know that the 2 main drivers of customer satisfaction are the reliability of our service and our perception of personal safety on our system. And what we've seen over the last 2 quarters, I think in part, as you saw in the prior presentation, as kind of our frequency increased, we're providing very consistently reliable rail service. The importance of the perception of safety in this overall number has risen. And when we did some focus groups and follow-up with customers, they identified kind of 3 aspects of this. One was safety aboard trains, another was fare evasion, so actually 2 main aspects, and the third they talked about was some weekend track work. One thing I do want to note is that when we ask customers specifically about, hey, how safe do you feel on our buses or our trains, that number hasn't changed that much in the last few quarters. However, as I mentioned, that importance has changed. So the weight in the overall customer satisfaction is what's affecting that overall number. But I do want to call out several key things that we've been doing that I think that really started taking effect in Q3 that I'll be really interested to see how they impact Q4 results, particularly for Metro Rail. One is that our Part 1 crime rate, as you see in that top left graph, has really decreased in recent months. So starting in February and March is when we started to see kind of really big drops. And that also kind of is around the same time in late February where we started having some special police officers ride our trains. And if you recall, that was one of the comments we received about customer satisfaction. We also, if you look at the bottom left graph, have kind of hit an inflection point with fare evasion. I think correlated with the that we've hit kind of the 50% mark in the amount of our fare gates that have been retrofitted. This also, we've stepped up enforcement and officer presence in our system. So I mentioned earlier, we've seen fare evasion on rail drop from 13% to 4%, and that drop started kind of in the late Q3, February, March timeframe. Delving a bit more into that decrease in Part 1 crime, the good news is we see that decrease across all types of crime. So that's consistent across assaults, larceny, robbery, motor vehicle theft is where we've seen the biggest decrease. And as I mentioned, in part that's related to a multi-pronged effort by MTPD. We've seen an increase in enforcement. We have continued to deploy special police officers throughout the system. And then really we've seen a huge increase in the amount of community outreach our police force has been doing, more than twice as much as last year. 370 events, when you think about how many days are in a year, is really impressive. That's multiple events a year. And on the motor vehicle side, we've been partnering with the community to distribute steering wheel locks. Moving to reliability and convenience, reliability really starts with our schedule. So some of the consistent funding levels in fiscal year 25 have enabled us to really invest in ensuring that our schedule remains robust. Some of the things that we're doing on the rail side, we are going to be expanding auto doors system-wide, and I'll share some initial results, very positive results we've seen in terms of reliability on the red line where we've implemented it. We're also matching our orange, blue, and silver frequencies all day. That makes more consistent wait times for customers as well as more reliable merges when the 3 lines come together. Similarly, we're doing some schedule adjustments on the yellow line that will enable it to more reliably kind of and consistently merge with the blue and the green and should improve. We've seen some small improvements in schedule adherence so far, looking at those. And of course, as we're looking to the future, it's about automation and increasing our max speeds. On the bus side, we've been making some improvements on about a little over 30 routes. Some examples of that are adding trips or adjusting runtime in response to customer demand. We are also extending late night service on a few key routes. Where we've seen a real increase in demand and are hitting some of our crowding thresholds, we've been adding service there. And of course, are really focused on, in the future, our Better Bus Network redesign and continuing to leverage our bus priority program. Looking specifically at bus on-time performance, we aren't quite meeting our target of 77%, but we have bucked the seasonal trend and seen improvements in February and March. We have also been really highly focused on some key lines where performance has been lower than desired. One example there is the 7079 bus, where you see that our control center staff and our street teams have been partnering to ensure that we are leaving all of our terminals on time, as well as kind of managing service along the route, and we've seen some positive improvements there. Customers also experience service reliability by the accuracy of the predictions that they're looking at to determine when to go out and wait for a vehicle. And so that's one thing that we want to focus on as well and measure. So we are not meeting our target for the accuracy of our real-time predictions on bus. We did see a drop this quarter in January and February that then rebounded in March. And that drop was related to the schedule that we released in January, where we think there was slightly too long a distance between time points that was fixed, and we saw accuracy get back up to the level that we're expecting. We're also very focused on improving accuracy by reducing the time between when a prediction is made and when it's available to customers, as well as we know that an area that we can do better is adjusting our prediction algorithm to better factor in layover times so that our predictions at our terminals are more accurate as well. On rail, we continue to miss our on-time performance target, but we did see, kind of like bus, some improvements later in the quarter in February and in March. Some of the things that we're doing to address or improve on-time performance are we retired our lowest performing rail cars, our oldest cars, which were the 2000 series, and our newest cars, the 7000 series, are 7 times more reliable than this 2000 series. Also, this idea of returning to automatic doors, this result, I will be honest, really surprised me how big an impact it had, because what it has done is it has made the opening of the doors much more consistent, and that decrease, that consistency, so taking out that variability, has really made running times more consistent, has made the trains run more on time, and has made customers run more on time. So when we look just at Redline on-time performance, we've seen a 7% increase from November. And then looking at real-time arrival accuracy on rail, you see overall it's higher than bus, which makes sense because we operate in a closed system. We still aren't quite meeting the target that we've set out. We know that some of the things that I mentioned earlier about the investments we're making in FY25 to adjust our schedule and increase the use of auto doors and other automation will boost that number up. And finally, closing out with access on-time performance. This is another area where we're not quite yet meeting the target that we set of 93%. We're coming in just below it, 91.3%. This is a similar story that we've heard last quarter, where we've seen an increase in demand in ridership, but are using kind of actually fewer resources to deliver those trips to the customers. And so it's more likely that drivers just they're doing more, and they tend to run a bit later throughout the day. Some of the things that we're doing to improve are first, kind of looking at continuing to leverage to the maximum extent possible our abilities ride providers. In March, about 44% of our trips were on abilities ride, and we added a new provider in mid-May. We're also looking at bringing back something that we had done previously, which is to add a new non-dedicated service. So dedicated service are the cars and the vans that you see that are labeled Metro Access. Non-dedicated service is partnership with other firms that can provide ADA trips, and this can reduce some of the strain on our dedicated service. And with that, that concludes this presentation, and so I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the continuing improvements in the depth of analysis that we see. And for the first time, for me at least, it's really eye-opening. I can share with you that looking at reliability, the differences between bus and rail. In bus, I see that planned service delivery and on-time performance are impacted by some different variables, specifically the human factors associated with operators and traffic congestion impact how we can improve in bus, which is very challenging, whereas we're using automation and other things on the rail side. So thank you for drilling down and making a difference in that arena. I don't have any questions beyond that. Committee members, comments, questions? Ms. Lowe? Dr. Lowe?
This was a really interesting report. I first want to ask about the focus groups that we're doing with customers. I think I kind of knew that we did those, but could you tell me a little bit more about how frequently we do focus groups with customers and how we recruit the participants?
I honestly don't have all of the details on that. We do it as kind of as we have business needs to do that. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, guys. So there is a small team that currently exists within customer experience that runs research on customers that depends on if we need a larger, deeper dive on a subject matter or area where we have surprising results. So we recently have done some focus groups around perceptions of safety and security that have had some interesting results that we're going to be reporting out on.
I really can't wait to hear more. I think it is great that we are investing in this capability, and I think we're going to learn a lot. I myself do a lot of qualitative research through my job, and I'm running a focus group project right now, and it is an incredible way to get really nuanced insights. So I'd love to learn more when the time is right.
Sounds great.
Bus terminal management came up in this presentation in the context of prediction reliability. But, I think that is a place where we also have an opportunity to move the needle on both actual safety and perceptions of safety. I really want to thank MTPD and the chief for how responsive he has been to some issues I've raised at bus terminals. I just cannot say enough good things about the chief and MTPD and how responsive they are. But I think that it can't all be on the police to do everything. So, when we have some room to breathe, I think some more expansive thinking about how bus terminals are maintained and managed is something that makes sense. The bus line specific performance data is incredible, right? Like that stat about the 70, 79, just the fact that WMATA is able to performance manage in this way, right? To see the, 65%, man, I need to get this prescription updated. Just look at this, right? That to be able to move the needle in this huge a way, and this wasn't about a major new capital infrastructure project, right? This is it's just performance management of going after the factors that are directly under WMATA's control in order to improve reliability. To be able to do this in this kind of granular way, this is just really cool. I don't know that I've even seen or thought about WMATA, much less any agency having the ability to performance manage this way, but to see the results and then just to think about, from the customer perspective, right? The implications of just, it's life and death, to be able to make these kinds of huge improvements in reliability. So I commend everyone involved in this. I know it was a much bigger effort than, right? This is about the entire bus team. And you're empowering them, and that's incredible. I also was the ADO reliability finding on the Metro Rail side, that is striking. And so my question is, could we anticipate similar reliability improvements from full ATO?
Yes.
Okay, then I think, frankly, I think there needs to be a lot more urgency as a region around getting ADO on every line and getting to full ATO. Where is the urgency? This needs to happen.
I guess I'll make a comment. I don't think that table should respond to that part, but I don't think there's been a lack of urgency on the Metro side. I mean, we are working incredibly hard. I think the board knows we did a peer review well over a year now. We've been doing briefings with the board, an enormous amount of effort both on the rail operations, infrastructure, and the safety side. So Red Line has gone well. We submitted to the WMSC the safety cert on all the other lines for concurrence. My understanding is that they've asked a couple questions. We respond to that. We're waiting for them on the final concurrence, but I think we expect that as early as could be this week or next week. And we are more or less ready to go for automatic door operations as soon as July 4th is over on all lines. So that will be that phase.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Then it's to move to ATO. And as we told the board, I think at the last meeting, our goal, Teresa and Brian report out on that, the goal would be on Red Line to be in full automatic train operation for December based on, again, the line has to line up with the December pick, because as much as this 7% improvement on time performance is great, the reality is we are saving time as well on the schedule. So if automatic train operation produces as much time savings with our back to the normal speed as we think, we can't run it with the current pick because we would have horrible terminal operations. We would have trains sitting for minutes on end waiting for the staff so they have to align. And for us, that means they have to align for December, which means we have to actually be full approval no later than mid-October at the latest, and that's the latest. Teresa and Brian would probably say, September, and the scheduling team would say today. But in reality, those are the steps. So we're going to get through the summer. We had our kind of training demonstration tests at the end of May, which Teresa and Brian talked about last time. Goal here is to we're working with WMSC on paperwork to do what we call a temporary use notification. So the idea is to start training this summer on all of our employees in the Red Line, do a final demonstration test and get everything done early September. Safety department, assuming all that goes correct, of course, safety certification, send it to WMSC for concurrence so that it lines up with the December pick. So that's, Teresa, you tell me if I got something wrong there, but I think that is the sequence of how we believe that would go into play. Assuming that goes well, then we would repeat on all the other lines for probably the June pick next year.
Okay, I mean, look, I think it's good to hear that there's a defined timeline and a runway. Everything is submitted to the WMSC. They have on their calendar this September dry run.
Well, we've certainly communicated our May demonstration test. We've communicated the process in the summer that we need to go through. We've communicated our plans in September, and we communicated that we would need safety certification concurrence no later than early mid-October. Because they understand, well, again, we've communicated that it's all based on the December pick.
They see the timeline. Okay.
We've laid it out, I think, pretty detailed, both at senior leadership and technical staff. So I don't think there would be a gray space between the schedule as we laid out.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidberg.
Thank you. Jordan, your slide 15, the customer satisfaction for the 3 modes. And I think you've gone over this in the past. But the 85%, tell us and how that is unique to us versus, say, a one-on-one comparison to, say, another organization like ours. I mean, why is that 85% important? Why was it selected? Just to give some context to this. I'm trying to understand it.
So the 85% is the target in our strategic transformation plan for customer satisfaction for all three modes.
Yeah.
And so you do see the target is different every year. Like, while I said like, oh, we're around 75, but then for rail, which is the highest, we have a orange dot, and then for bus, which is lowest, we have a blue dot. But the way we set the specific target for fiscal year 25 was kind of looking at the most recent performance. So back when we set targets, it was like this time last year, so quarter 3 of fiscal year 23, and kind of what that delta was between the strategic transformation plan target of 85%. Because that's where we really want to be in 2028, kind of the time horizon of the strategic transformation plan, and then setting a target for fiscal year 25 that kind of made that gradual incremental progress towards that 85%. And when we look at rail, we were pretty high last fiscal year 23, right? So we set it at 85%.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. And how are you using, or I guess, how are you using this information to get down to people working in these, divisions or these various verticals?
Yeah, I think this is our, Jordan said, our North Star metric here. I mean, customer satisfaction is the ultimate thing. And in one way, you could argue that we were overzealous in setting our expectation, because the 85% was what we said we would do with our 5-year plan. And we hit it 18 months or a year into the plan. So we've actually performed so well. And, I mean, on this conversation, when we started hitting 84, 85%, let alone 88, we were like, how do we keep this thing up? Our goal was to hit this in 3 years from now. So I'm not surprised a little dip in Q3. Q3, we did a lot of maintenance, weekend maintenance in January, February, and March, because we have to do so much to lead up to having a lot of non-maintenance weekend to support cherry blossom and spring tourism season, that people got impacted. That in the winter, you tend to have, the perception of more, people that may be trying to get out from the weather inside of a rail station, as an example, and that interaction could be a little perceived a little differently. So the way we measured is a good example. Board Member Lowe brought up the 70-79. We have a top 10 worst performing bus routes that we are trying to systematically get out of the top 10, right, and rotate them through so they're never ending. And corridor management is a good example. So the 70-79 share a corridor, the 50 share a corridor, the S's, et cetera. And we're trying to get our team, both our field team, and I think this new control center we built, really are starting to work well together to start managing terminal operation, police operation throughout the line, all those types of things. So, this is the metric that Brian was using with a Shanita, a Leroy, they're using with their teams. So, and then Jordan has another reporting that is more granular with like signal reliability, track reliability, power reliability, vehicle reliability, and then we can use that to target those specific examples. So this is what we try to work through every day, every week, every month. Jordan runs a meeting actually in this room, probably about 100 people, and it's our performance review. And the way we kind of have it set up is the performance team is actually running the meeting with data, not the ops team defending their data. So it's a very transparent and kind of collegial but pressured situation, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting, and personally did not know that. So that's great. Yeah, thanks.
So thank you. Don't see any other questions or issues. Thank you. With no further business to come before I'm sorry. Oh, both.
Thank you. I wanted to also just second the comment about the excellence of the data-driven decision-making. It's impressive, and I too did not know this level of detail, so this is great. Can you please help put this into context, some of the metrics? So how did you come up with the 85%? Is it relative to Metro in the past? I'm guessing not. Or did you set it as relative to other comparator systems? Question one. And question two is, the findings are fantastic. How are we communicating it to riders, shareholders, and as part of the marketing strategy that Director Lowe mentioned earlier? Thanks.
Great. So on how we set kind of the 85% or the targets. So, we have the strategic plan, which has set kind of more aspirational targets of kind of this is where we want to be in 2028. And then when we look at kind of a fiscal year basis, we factor in what are our resources for this fiscal year, what's our service plan. We also do look to peers. So we say, hey, what comparable data do we have on our peer properties? Are we leading them? I think last time we got some, last board meeting, got some presentations about how our safety performance compared to peers. So we look at, are we kind of an industry leader? Are we maybe not doing quite as well as our peers? And that can kind of inform for us how aggressive to be in setting our target and kind of what the range is that we can expect. And so we have very transparent conversations with leadership and kind of the owners of the actions to meet these targets and measures, and talk through, hey, what does continuous improvement on this measure look like? What are some options for targets, given what we know about this coming year? What will push us to improve, but still be attainable? And so that's kind of the process that we use to set the targets. For how we talk about the findings, so we have a public dashboard that has some of these key metrics that's available for everyone. We publish this report. I think we share key findings on this on social media, so we're always looking to kind of get this message out.
Thank you. And just to clarify, how are we doing relative to the comparators that you pick?
Depends on the measure. So this one, actually, customer satisfaction, we're pretty good compared to our peers on satisfaction. I'd say 75% is actually quite high.
Thank you. Ms. Martin Proctor? Okay, you're good? Okay, now. Okay, so thank you very much for an excellent presentation. And with no further business to come before the committee, we stand adjourned, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Letourneau for a meeting of the board's Elections Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Drummer. This is a meeting of the Elections Committee of the Metro Board of Directors, and I'm Matt Letourneau, Elections Committee Chairman. I'd like to note that I'm joined by the other three members of the Elections Committee this morning, Mr. Drummer, Ms. Santos, and Ms. Martin Proctor. I'd like to start the meeting by asking for the committee's approval of the agenda and minutes. Does anyone have any suggested changes to the agenda? If there are no objections, I'll consider the agenda accepted as presented. Now we have the minutes from our last meeting, which was June of 2023, as well as the committee's executive sessions on June 25th and June 26th of this year for approval. Unless there are any objections to the minutes as presented, we'll consider them approved. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. We have one item on our agenda today, which is to nominate the board officers for the coming year, which is fiscal year 2025. The board has aligned the officers' terms with Metro's fiscal year running from July 1 to June 30th. So the officers who are nominated at this committee meeting and elected at the board meeting will begin their terms on July 1st. I move the following individuals to serve as the board's officers for FY 2025. Chair, Valerie Santos. First Vice Chair, Paul Smedberg. Second Vice Chair, Joe McAndrew. Could I get a second from a committee member?
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Martin Proctor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask Ms. Ellison to conduct the vote.
Chair Letourneau?
Aye.
Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Ms. Santos?
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor?
Abstain.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Those nominations will now be referred to the board for action at our meeting later this morning. And with no further business to come before the committee, we stand adjourned. We'll take a brief break before beginning the board meeting.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Smedberg, Chair of the WMATA Board. Thank you for being here today. Since we called the roll at an earlier committee meeting, we'll move right ahead to the approval of the agenda. I'd like to consider the agenda approved as presented. Does anyone have any comments or objections to the agenda as presented? Hearing and seeing none, the agenda is approved. Thank you. We have 7 sets of minutes for approval. The board meeting from May 9th, the executive sessions from May 7th, May 22nd, June 3rd, June 4th, June 5th, and June 13th. I'd like to consider these minutes approved as presented. Does anyone have any corrections, changes, objections to any of those sets of minutes? Hearing and seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Now we'll go on to our employee spotlights. The first board spotlight recognizes train operator Damani Nickens. Please stand. Who single-handedly prevented his train from colliding with a vehicle. On Friday, June 14th, Mr. Nickens was operating train ID 128 on the red line toward Glenmont Station when he noticed a pickup truck that had crashed through the WMATA fencing and landed on the tracks. Mr. Nickens immediately stopped the train and notified Metro's Integrated Command, Control, and Communications Center. His vigilance and swift response was instrumental in avoiding a serious collision. Thank you for your quick thinking and heroic actions. Our next spotlight would have focused on Cynthia Champion. Unfortunately, Ms. Champion could not be with us here this morning, and we'll recognize her at our next meeting. And our last spotlight today features Metro Transit Police Department Officer Andrew Pulowski, Mr. Pulowski, whose sharp eye and quick actions led to the capture of a wanted suspect. On Monday, May 20th, at about 9:30 a.m., Officer Pulowski was patrolling Gallery Place Metro Station when he observed a subject on the Green Line Metro train. The subject matched the MTPD lookout description of a person wanted for questioning for assault with a deadly weapon. Officer Pulowski was working in a plainclothes capacity, approached and identified himself as an MTPD officer. With the help of additional MTPD officers and allied security officers, the subject was arrested. We want to thank Officer Pulowski as well as the other officers and the MTPD and the allied security for keeping our system safe. Yeah. And sorry, we have one more. Sorry about that. Crossing off Ms. Champion, I forgot about this one. And the final spotlight is Transportation Department in recognition of Kiana McManus. Ms. McManus, good morning. Who is a depot clerk at Landover, who has dedicated her time and effort to decorating Metro buses for special events and holidays. The most recent one was Jacob's Make-A-Wish request, which was celebrated to highlight his 10th birthday with a Metro bus ride. Ms. McManus, affectionately known as Ms. Q, adorned the bus in a birthday theme with Jacob's name on the side. Through her work, McManus has demonstrated a deep commitment to making these events memorable for the participants and the community. In turn, the special buses that she thoughtfully designs for the events convey that Metro is committed to making community members feel heard and honored and deepen its relationship with community partners by involving them in these efforts. Thank you for your dedication to this extremely important effort. Thank you. So now we'll ask all of you to come forward and we'll take some pictures. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Ready? 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you. And before we go to our public comment and advisory board reports, I am going to take chair's privilege here. Let's see, where is it? Michelle, where are you? Oh, it's in the chair report. Okay, that's separate. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Well, to start the chair report, we'd like to formally welcome Metro's new Inspector General, Michelle Zamarin. Michelle. Stay standing. So we'll be swearing in Michelle today. As you recall, Ms. Zamarin was appointed Inspector General on April 25th, 2024, and began her role here last week. She came to us from the trial unit of the Enforcement Division at the Security and Exchange Commission, where she was responsible for conducting investigations into violations of the federal security laws and litigating matters involving fraud in public company disclosures, corporate governance, Foreign Corruption Practice Act, market manipulation, breaches of fiduciary duty, and insider trading. We look forward to Michelle employing her expertise here to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, the core functions of the Inspector General's office. Michelle, will please come forward and we'll swear you in.
Move up there. I'm sorry.
This is nothing new. You've done this once or twice before. Yeah. So raise your right hand. I
Michelle Zamarin,
hereby solemnly affirm
hereby solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Compact,
and the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority Compact,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the Inspector General
and will faithfully discharge the duties of Inspector General
of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority
of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am honored to be named the Inspector General of WMATA, and I am grateful to the board for selecting me for such a critical position. The Office of Inspector General is critical for ensuring the success of WMATA and is the front line in protecting WMATA against waste, fraud, and abuse. The office requires people who serve with the utmost integrity, honesty, independence, and fairness. In the past week, I had the privilege of observing firsthand the people who make up the Office of the Inspector General. And I can assure you that they embody all of these qualities. And I have been extremely impressed with their enthusiasm and dedication to the mission. And I appreciate how welcoming they have been, as well as their openness to new ideas. I hope as Inspector General, I am able to significantly contribute to making WMATA better, and together with WMATA, serving the community the best we can. Thank you, everyone.
Again, welcome, Michelle, and we really look forward to working with you. Really appreciate it. Okay, now we'll move on to our public comment and advisory body reports. We'll start out with online comments. John?
Hi, my name is Megan Thompson, and I live in downtown Silver Spring, and I have commuted in for the last 16 years, a little over, from Silver Spring to Union Station. This last year or so, I have been commuting in with my toddler. He's a year-old, and we start at Silver Spring, get off at Judiciary. So in planning for the summer red line shutdown, we left early that first Monday morning and would have been stranded if not for my husband taking time off work to ultimately drive us. So what our day looked like, first I take him in a stroller. I physically cannot carry him and the things we need for both daycare and work. So we use a stroller, and usually that's not a problem. With the coach buses, that's a huge problem for accessibility. I cannot fold up the stroller while holding him and the things we need and carry him up the stairs and then do that in reverse. It's not physically possible. And I know a lot of other parents that would be in a similar situation. So I'm asking that Metro buses be rotated in. I know they've been added, but they are not on a regular schedule. So it would be great even every 15 minutes, just stagger them. And then we can use that. I don't mind having a little bit of a wait. I understand that, but the accessibility has been a major challenge getting in to work and getting him to school. So that's my feedback. I appreciate the consideration and just really hope you work to make Metro, including during shutdowns, more accessible for all families. Thank you.
Is that it, John? Okay. Now we'll turn to our in-person speakers. First, we'll have Nicole Ridgway, followed by Bill Orleans. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
My name is Nicole Ridgway. I'm the General Manager with MV Transportation's contract with Metro Access Operations Control Center. As you may know, MV is one of the largest minority-owned companies in the U.S. and the largest American-owned provider of pair and public transit service in North America. We are protesting the authority's recent decision to award the paratransit call center work to another company based upon what we believe is a flawed procurement process. The technical evaluation was arbitrary and irregular. MV received 0 credit and evaluation for having earned exceptional marks while performing this work for the last 18 years. Per staff comments during our exit interview, the authority failed to verify any of the bidders' assertions, conduct any in-person interviews, and perform any reference checks. The winning bidder's proposal general manager has 0 experience running a control center operation, and as the winning company, they're currently aggressively and actively recruiting our MV leadership team for their management positions, which does suggest that their proposed staffing plan was disingenuous. But also, most concerning is the fact that the winning bid price was substantially less than current call center payroll. And this includes union members that are part of ATU Local 689 and OPEIU Local 2. So we believe that the winning company will come back and ask you for a price increase. All of these challenges are compounded by the staff's attempts to ignore the 120-day minimum requirement for a transition like this, instead forcing a transition in less than 40 days, creating a disorderly process and also adversely impacting not just our customers, but our employees. We encourage the board to protect our customers and in doing so, uphold this protest and also to direct the staff to provide us with a 120-day extension. It truly has been my honor serving our Metro Access community. 11 of the past 18 years at Envy has been a partner with WMATA. So thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Ridgway. Bill Orleans, followed by our last speaker, Denise Rush.
Good morning, all. This is my first opportunity to comment since the launching of DMV Moves on May Day. I was grateful to hear a response when a question was posed from the assembled boards on that day that the task force meetings will be open to the public's participation and comment. I was unhappy subsequently to realize that the governance work group and the community advisory work group meetings will not similarly be open to the public's observation, and therefore no opportunity for the public to comment. Since this is my first opportunity to address either the COG board or, well, you don't really get a chance to address the COG board, but to address WMATA's board, I am asking for reconsideration of that decision not to open up for public observation and comment meetings of the governance work group and the community advocacy work group. Secondly, with regard to the community advocacy work group, there are notable omission of ongoing, longstanding transit advocacy groups in the area, specifically Action Committee for Transit in Montgomery County, Maryland. And with regard to the governance work group, I don't recall seeing WMATSI as an important constituent governance work group. They certify, among other things, they license, they regulate all the commuter buses. It's an example of the short-sighted development of that task force and that work group. And I'm asking the board publicly to state that it will reconsider the denial of the public the opportunity to speak to attend and speak in the two work groups, and to re-examine the omission of Action Committee for Transit and such other similar groups in the area from the Community Advocacy Work Group and WMATSI from the Governance Work Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orleans. Final speaker, Denise Rush. Morning, Denise.
Hello, everyone. My name is Denise Rush, and I am the Vice Chair of Metro Access, the Vice Chair of the AAC Committee, and Vice Chair of the National Federation for the Blind. I want to discuss that I heard region a lot at this meeting, but PG County doesn't feel like we're part of the region. The customers cannot understand why for 10 years they've been trying to get a bus to go down 210, a bus to go further down Branch Avenue, and it doesn't happen. We can go to Clinton, can't go 7 days a week, but they can come to my house and take me all the way to Gaithersburg Walmart, but I can't go to the Clinton Walmart down the street. That is a major concern, and it needs to be a focus that the PG County residents are not getting extended service. They're not in the plan. I was told when I went to the hearings last year, when I went to the meetings last year, and I went last night, that that is not in the plan. When is it going to get in the plan? Or make me understand how the plan is working and what is proposed, what is next, what do we see in the future? I won't be around another 10 years, but I've been waiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Now we'll hear from our Accessibility Advisory Committee's chair, Patrick Sheehan. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. Oh, there we are. Very good. Thank you. A couple of things I want to talk about, really echo a little bit of what Denise just said also. But starting off with work that was done at L'Enfant Plaza by members of my committee, that particularly low vision individuals that had a chance to look at the signage in L'Enfant Plaza. The areas of focus that this group gave Sarah Myers with respect to the signage was very complete, very detailed. They were concerned about color contrast. They were concerned about what happens with color contrast when you've got excessive light or outside. I think Sarah got a lot of good information from the low vision community, and that's very important. So we have some very good active members that have worked with her directly and with her engineers. I think the signage that we're going to see in the system is going to be a lot better, more consistent, and more accessible and available. They're going to continue to take a look at the signage as it gets reissued within L'Enfant Plaza. I know that I think in August, they're going to move to Roslyn and take a look at that station. So I'm very excited about that. I appreciate, I don't have the available vision to make signage and those kinds of decisions as far as color contrast. So I appreciate members of my committee that do. I also attended the DMV moves from the accessibility side. During the discussion that ensued, I worked to add accessibility to the vision statement and also to the goal statement. And I realized that accessibility was a topic for at least 3 or 4 other people that deal with accessibility but see it in a different way than I do. So I think that as far as some of the verbiage and what's required in DMV moves, we need to be careful about our terms, at least be able to define them in such a way. Disability access is different from, or accessibility is different from other types of accessibility. And then another area that I was concerned about was, as we talked about, Denise talked about, was what is going on with Prince George's County. I use that as a reference to say we need to think of Prince George's County in a regional manner. I understand that they get an awful lot of money from the state of Maryland, but they seem to have less transit accessibility or availability than many of the other regions. That is going to be a focus, I think, for the Accessibility Advisory Committee over the next few months. Love to find out why that seems to be happening. And regionally, talking to Better Bus Network and all of that, one of the things that came up was the deconflicting of the bus network within Prince George's County. There seem to be parallel bus trips going on between WMATA and other service providers. And I know that's going to be deconflicted, and perhaps we'll get more bus service within Prince George's County. The last question that I asked, the DMV moves a priority list together, and we incorporate more buses into the system. Is that going to be part of the fixed route system? Because if it is, that means that Metro Access will be traveling in those areas. I didn't get an answer to that. I didn't really expect to, but I think what that points out that words like accessibility and fixed route, they mean something, particularly to WMATA, when you're looking at other areas like paratransit. So words matter. I am very pleased to be part of this group. I think it's a good, hardworking group. I know we've got a lot of work to do, and we just had our first meeting, but we'll be marching on. Any questions for me? And sir, I would personally like to say thank you for your leadership on the board. And you've been straightforward, easy to work with, and I appreciate your leadership. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, Mr. Spout, our RAC chair, could not be with us here this morning, but there has been a report submitted, so you can find that in your information. So now we'll go back to the chair's remarks. Next, I'd like to highlight two events that the board participated in this week. First, members of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority Board hosted members of the Metro Board for a meet and greet and presentation on the existing projects they have planned for Dulles Airport, as well as a tour of their current facilities. We received an inside look at their police and fire operations, as well as their ramp control traffic tower. Our thanks to the MWA board for hosting us and for the fruitful conversation about how our agencies can partner and collaborate more in the future. And it really was fascinating to, go behind the scenes, particularly up in the tower and everything, to see all that goes on there. And it's really fascinating. We also got into their control room. I'm not sure anyone's here from our. I mean, it was actually a little surprising. It was actually a little surprising. It was
I had a delay yesterday. Had this anything to do with it?
I mean, I was expecting to walk into something like our control center, and it was very sort of modest, but it works. Obviously, it's very, important to their operation. But that was one thing that surprised me a little bit. I thought it would have been a little more. Well, anyway. So, but it would. But
I guess that's the last time we're getting invited.
Yeah. No, but it was really, really interesting, and more importantly, I think, was the fact of the conversations and comments back to us on what they have planned for that airport and how important we are to their future plans is really, really critical. Particularly with the expansion of the new United Hub, their new terminal, which is already underway. So it's really, really important that they have been able to sign, 4 or 5 new airlines since Metro started service with the Silver Line, which has been, again, really incredible for them. So they really did emphasize how important we are to that. And they do have some ideas on how we can collaborate and work together and helping each other improve service. So anyone else want to comment on that? Matt?
That's great.
You were like a kid in a candy store.
Well, I love that stuff, but it was also great to have everybody in Loudoun County. But truly, one of the best aspects of this was the dialogue between the boards about how we can collaborate in the future. And they were really interested in some of the things we were working on and how we can kind of help each other. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, and next, on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, members of the board were able to tour the Forest Glen Station and adjacent tunnels during our ongoing Red Line shutdown. We were able to see the station chiller, the communications room. Hold on, I'm all messed up now. Here we go. Train control room, tunnel leak mitigation work, tie breaker room, interlocking switch machines and track circuits, vent shaft, the grout pad replacement, and drainage pump station. Quick fact, Metro pumps 3 million gallons of water a day out of the system, just in that one pump station. It was sort of incredible to see. And as you look down into this big, sort of water tank, it's sort of like looking into your own toilet when you have to replace something. It's just this little rubber piece that goes up and down. And it's this engineering thing with huge pipes and everything. And all it is this little rubber thing going up and down. Yeah.
It's a sub pump.
It's a sub pump. A big sub pump. Yeah. So, the tours really put into perspective the magnitude of what our employees do every day to move millions of people. And again, just super fascinating. And it was really, incredible. Tracy, you want to say anything? And anyone? Yeah.
I just want to extend my thanks to the team who arranged this visit and who were able to give us so much visibility into all of the systems that keep Metro Rail moving and dry, relatively dry. I was incredibly impressed with all of the talent that we met while hundreds of feet below ground. And I'm just very appreciative of
both the team and my board colleagues humoring me on really wanting to do this. It's been a longstanding interest of mine to better understand roadway worker protection, how WMATA does what is it, how does WMATA do this, how has it changed over time, how might it change in the future, and in addition, getting more visibility into these really huge key components of our capital plan, I think has been really beneficial to the board. And we had really great board participation in this, in addition to all of the support from the team. And so I think I'm appreciative, and I think it's really, really good that we did this.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else want to comment? Joe?
Yeah, just real quick. I can echo everything that Tracy said. And if anybody needs further, Tracy's Twitter or X account has a deep dive. Take a look. But in reality, I think it helped contextualize the work that the region had done in 2018. I think Tracy, you said this on your social media thread as well. But we're not through with the investments that were at a systems level. The changes to communication and safety and signals. So it was very helpful in that regard. But I think to the public, to understand and appreciate the changes happening, right, and the positive in terms of state of good repair and system reliability that you're seeing every day, but behind it is a system that's getting upgraded and enhanced because of the work that was done in 2018. So I think it's and the team, right, the team here continuing to invest and plan and grow, but we got to have the money to ultimately do it. So I think it was good in that regard.
Yeah, for me, in addition to the electrical upgrades and everything that's happening, and just the day-to-day work that's going on in the track, I think the communication and signaling piece for me was the most striking, and how important that work is for plans toward ATO and other things that we would like to do. And it was really, really fascinating. So thank you, Tracy, for suggesting that. And Teresa, thank you for throwing us back to junior high and high school pop quiz after our 2-hour safety class. We're all having flashbacks, but I think we all passed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know I'm having a flashback because I got it.
And Mr. Chair, speaking of safety, it was a great lesson for us.
Yeah.
Over the past 2 years, we've learned quite a bit about different pieces, components of rail operations, especially when there's been an incident. And this opportunity, this visit, gave us context where we could physically see it, feel it, touch it. So it wasn't new to us, but it surely made it real for us. So thank you very much for the past training and coaching and teaching, and the opportunity to see it for ourselves.
Yeah, also have to recognize Andy Off and his team. Teresa, you and your team, obviously, to make this happen beforehand and the day of. So.
And I just wanted to say it was very, very heartwarming and interesting to see the protective gear that is around all of our employees that are there. They have the headphones, we're protecting our ears, we're protecting our eyes, we're protecting them from the heat. They're doing a yeoman's work down there in 100+ degree temperature. And I just want to say thank you for the tour. Thank you for the ability to see that. And then thank you so much for your work as we continue to improve and make Metro the gold standard of transportation and the safest way to get around in the DMV.
All right. Next, we'd like to highlight, take a moment, that June is LGBTQ Pride Month. Pride Month is an annual celebration of the many contributions made by the LGBTQ+ community to history, society, and cultures worldwide. In most places, Pride is celebrated throughout the month of June each year to commemorate its roots in the Stonewall riots of June of 1969 in New York. In June 2000, then President Bill Clinton officially designated June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month in recognition of the Stonewall riots and gay activism throughout the years. A more inclusive name was chosen in 2009 by then President Barack Obama, Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. Pride Month serves to celebrate, educate, and support and inspire communities to preserve history and protect rights. By continuing in this tradition of celebration, we raise awareness, improve the attitudes of society, and encourage inclusiveness. We also want to note that June is Men's Health Awareness Month and Caribbean American Heritage Month. And finally, next month, we will only have one board meeting, that is July 11th. Just a reminder, there will be no WMATA board meeting or committee meetings on July 25th. This concludes my report. Now I'll turn the floor over to Randy Clark, our GM and CEO. Mr. Clark.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my report, relatively short and sweet here. So I'm going to start off, we wrapped up the fiscal year. So just go to the next slide, please. As we wrap up the next slide, a little apropos, I wasn't unfortunately able to join you for the tour. I saw lots of pictures and the staff sent me some other pictures as well. But I just want to really take a moment and recognize the entire board for this fiscal year that we just had. These are just some of the pictures over the last year. And I think the tours you just went on show this is a very active board, engaged, out learning, but also we have some celebration events, whether it's the 8K on the mall to fun kid events, and the public art. I just appreciate all your leadership, the time. I don't think the public fully understands. This isn't a corporate board. There's no. I know we have a new OIG that did the SEC. Luckily, our stocks are very, the value is very low. There's no worrying about stock trading here for the board. They put in you all put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and on behalf of the whole staff, just thank you for everything in this last fiscal year. Really appreciate it. And Mr. Chairman, I know we'll talk about this more in July, but kind of as your term ends, just really double down on your appreciation for the great year as chair and both working together as general manager, but just all your leadership. It's immensely appreciated by the team. The next, I have a video, very short video of just, it was really hard to put together, quite frankly, what we've accomplished in FY24 fiscal year. The list is, you kind of go back and say, was that again this year? We, as you said, if we catch our breath, we are just getting so much done, from whether it was ADO to 24-hour bus system in DC, another clean audit, and you name it. So we put together just a little highlight video for us to take a moment and remind ourselves of what FY24 was really, what we accomplished as a team. There we go. Well, I think an understatement, we had a successful fiscal year. So congratulations, everybody. And never-ending more work to do as it goes. So next up, I'm not sure what's going on with the screen, but next.
To get back to the slides.
Okay. Next up, basically just highlighting that this week I happened to be, UITP had a meeting in Vancouver for the North America Forum. I was asked to go and kind of give a highlight of what we're doing here at Metro, but also talking with kind of some other world systems about what they're doing. So I could say there's a lot of interest in what WMATA's doing on a lot of fronts, which is good to hear, not just domestically, but internationally. And again, we're going to continue to learn. Vancouver happens to be a system that's full automated rail system. So a good example of some of the work we're doing here. COMET, which is Community of Metros, Tom, Jordan, that team hosted them this week. And that is really the idea of really using good data analysis across transit systems to a little bit of what Jordan talked about here earlier today. We use that to kind of learn from each other, benchmark, grow that way. And we did a lot of hosting this year or this week with WTS, and specifically out of the Carmen Turner Maintenance and Training Facility. So we do a lot of work with WTS and other organizations, but as you could see, we had a really large group of young women here at Metro this week. I think they're all over the DMV. I saw them at FTA and USDOT and other places, but great example of showing the opportunities for women in this amazing industry. Next up, it's been mentioned twice, so obviously I'll sell it one more time, but we're doing Metro Fest, the first one ever, this Saturday. Then we have another one at the end of July. I'm told we have 1,200 people already registered. So we were kind of like, is it going to be busy? It's not going to be busy. It looks like it's going to be busy. So it's the ultimate, we're calling it, I guess people with kids go to the truck touch, but this is truck touch Metro style. So you can come out, you can get on a train, on a bus. We got a bunch of staff out there. We got a lot of programs. It's going to be a really good community day. And then last but not least, I want to take the opportunity to give a little highlight to a 37-year veteran here at Metro. And Terry just went, ah. So Terry, come on up if you don't mind. Come on up. Terry DeBose Wilson, as many people know Terry, she started here 37 years ago. She worked with Carmen Turner. She's gone through a lot of people like GMs like me. And Terry, congratulations on your retirement. Fantastic person.
Regina, really no. I'm not a talker, but it's been a pleasure. I'm excited. I'm nervous, more excited. I'm going to miss everybody that I work close to. I'm just looking forward to the next chapter. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm going to grab the mic for just a second, because when I started here as Director of Policy and Government Relations in 2008, coming into an office where I had folks around me who were actually reporting to me and deadlines and stuff that was rather overwhelming coming to a large organization like Metro is. And who was there every single day to tell me, where can I find this? Who do I talk to for that? How do I put together a briefing book for the district government budget hearings? What are they going to want? Everything. Terry knew everything and everybody, and she made it smooth, as smooth as things ever are at Metro. There's always things, right? But it was a pleasure, Terry, working with you, and I just want to congratulate you on your retirement.
I appreciate it.
I think it's 13 GMs who've gone.
Jeez.
I think they said.
Let's stop camera.
And that's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Now we'll turn the floor over to Mr. Letourneau for a report by the Finance and Capital Committee. Mr. Letourneau.
Thank you. The following item was referred to the board at the June 13th Finance and Capital Committee meeting, Series 2024A, Second Lien Dedicated Revenue Bonds. Staff sought authorization to issue Second Lien Dedicated Revenue Bonds, Series 2024A, with the following terms: 35-year maximum maturity, par issuance not to exceed $663 million, and an average interest rate not to exceed 6%. Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Letourneau. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Letourneau. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Lowe. Any discussion or comment on this item? Hearing and
No,
seeing.
I'm just going to say, Mr. Chairman, thank the finance staff. We did have a successful bond sale recently with favorable terms for Metro, which I think reflects our improving fiscal management. So I'd like to thank the staff for that work.
Thank you. Now we'll ask the Board Corporate Secretary to administer the vote.
Chair Smedberg?
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew?
Aye.
Vice Chair Haddon-Lowe?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau?
Aye.
Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Ms. Santos?
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Now I'll turn the floor back over to Mr. Letourneau for a report from the Elections Committee.
Thank you, Chair Smedberg. The following item was referred to the board at this morning's Elections Committee meeting, FY 2025 Board Officer Nominations. Committee voted to nominate Valerie Santos as the board chair, Paul Smedberg as first vice chair, and Joe McAndrew as the board's second vice chair. Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this slate of officers.
Thank you, Mr. Letourneau. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Letourneau. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Drummer. Any discussion, comments?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, just briefly, I know we'll have the opportunity to reflect on your tenure here as chairman, which is at least 5 years, I know. But I just wanted to thank you for that extraordinary service to this organization. As was just pointed out, you were actually the Board Member of the Year this past year, which is about as high honor as you can receive in this business. So I'm personally grateful. I think I speak on behalf of everyone for the amount of time, effort, and just exceptional results that we've had under your leadership. So thank you.
So
and I also like to congratulate Valerie and the other officers.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll ask the Board Corporate Secretary to administer the vote.
Chair Smedberg?
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew?
Aye.
Vice Chair Haddon-Lowe?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
I abstain.
Mr. Letourneau?
Aye.
Mr. Drummer?
Aye.
Ms. Santos?
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor?
Abstain.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. We have one consent agenda item before us today. I would like to move approval of the adoption of the indemnification for the DRPT grant administration system with the addition of the following language to attachment A. The organization shall be responsible to the extent allowable by law for any and all damages related to its access to the system and for anyone it grants access to the system, including but not limited to its employees and agents in connection with the access to the system granted under this agreement. It is expressly understood that the existing language now continues. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Letourneau. We have a second, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Now the reports by the jurisdictions, NVTC. I don't have any, Mr. Letourneau. Yeah. Yep. WSTC, Mr. McAndrew?
Nope.
No. Okay. DC, Dr. Lowe.
I'm going to look to Randy to ask, what hours are we going to operate Metro Rail free for the 4th of July?
already talked about, yeah.
5 o'clock is what the board, we had that conversation. So we'll be coming out with that information today. Is it, Christy? Later, I think it's later today, if not tomorrow, the information's coming out about July 4th.
Great. Yeah. DC is excited to celebrate the 4th of July and the birthday party for our nation. And I just want to remind everyone that the safest way to get to and from our 4th of July celebrations downtown is to choose Metro Rail. So please do.
Okay. Federal government, Ms. Klein.
No report unless, no report.
Okay. With,
Chair,
Val.
could I say something if you don't mind? I just wanted to say that I appreciate the trust that my colleagues on the board are placing in me for this coming fiscal year and serving as the chair of the board. And I just wanted to reiterate and echo comments made by Director Letourneau about the leadership and steadiness and patience and generosity of our current chair, and appreciate you personally, and I think speaking on behalf of our jurisdiction and colleagues. And also to reiterate that we are a region. So the reason I said yes to this call to service is because I genuinely believe we are a regional asset. We are a regional team, and I am really looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And we're going to continue on this path of excellence that our general manager is setting us on, and look forward to the next several months. Thanks.
All right, with no further business to come before the board, we'll stand adjourned and we'll reconvene upstairs.